It's that time of year again, when the pumpkins are out, the sweets are ready, and the movies delight us with fright. But we're not the only ones who celebrate the dead, so let us take a trip and see how Halloween looks around the world.
Our first celebration will take us across the world, deep into the heart of Asia, and down into Cambodia. Every year in October, Cambodia celebrates the festival of Pachum Bun. This celebration is a tribute to ancestors reaching as far back as 7 generations. Pachum Bun starts towards the end of September and lasts for 15 days. During the first 14 days, families will visit pagodas where spirits are said to be waiting in anticipation of the food offerings which themselves come on the 15th day. On the last day of the celebration, families will visit at least 3 pagodas and give food to the monks. It is also commonly referred to as Ancestors' Day. Pachum actually translates to gather together, and Bun literally means ball of food. These families will make little balls of rice, go to the pagodas and toss them outside the temple. It is said that some ancestors cannot enter the temple and that they must only consume food made by their descendants. These little balls of rice, therefore, are tribute to those ancestors. Now, this festival was first celebrated in the 1st century AD during the Mahayana period of Buddhism, meaning that Pachum Bun actually predates Halloween. Once the festival is over, a 3-day-long public holiday begins in which relatives can travel the country and spend time with those that they love. Now, not all festivals that celebrate the dead take place in October. In April, of the 1st day of the 5th solar term, China celebrates the Qingming festival. Qingming means pure brightness, and it originates from the Zhou dynasty, which ruled from 1046 to 256 BC, the longest in Chinese history. It originated as a celebration of spring, but it became an official holiday during the Tang dynasty. Emperor Shu Wanzang in 742 ordered that all respect to the ancestors must be paid at their graves, which is how it became known by its other name, Tomb Sweeping Day. The clearing of graves is another activity undertaken on this one-day festival, along with flying kites, wearing willow branches and eating lovely sweet balls of rice. Not all festivals like Halloween focus on the death part. Some of them focus on the harvest and the end of summer. This includes Erntedankfest in Germany, which means Harvest Thanksgiving Festival. During Thanksgiving festivals, pagans would thank their gods for an abundant harvest. This was done as far back as the 3rd century AD by farmers all across Europe, when Romans still ruled most of the continent. The word harvest is thought to come from the old Germanic word Heerfest, which meant autumn. This included prayer, feasts, parades and music. This tradition is carried on to this very day. It starts in early October and it is a day filled with church services, grand street parades and of course feasts with hearty local food. Now we make our way over the pond and down to a little country in South America, one you probably wouldn't think of at Halloween. We are talking about the Festival de los Barriletes Gigantes, which in English means the Giant Kite Festival. This festival originated with the Mayans, who first emerged in Guatemala in 2000 BC, although it has since been associated with All Saints' Day. This festival is celebrated in the 2 towns of Zumpango and Santiago Zacatepeques on the 1st of November. Locals start making their kites well ahead of the celebration. They usually use locally sourced materials and piece them together using bamboo, rope made from maguey fibres, and glue made from yucca flower, lemon peel and water. On the day of the celebration, people will take to the cemeteries and fly the kites to ward off evil spirits in a spectacle of flying colours that draws tourists from around the world. Then, as the celebration draws to a close, they will go back to the towns and celebrate with friends and food and festivities well into the evening. Our final celebration is arguably the most famous. Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is celebrated mainly in Mexico and finds its origins among the ancient Aztecs. The Aztecs had celebrations for their deceased throughout most of their calendar year, with prominent ones such as Mikael Tuwintotli, meaning Feast of the Little Dead Ones on the 1st of November, and Mikael Huit, meaning Feast of the Adult Dead. They had an emphasis on skulls, which represented war and rebirth. These themes were brought together when the Catholic Spanish conquered the Aztecs in the 1500s and brought All Souls Day to South America. This meant the merging of the indigenous traditions with the Catholic traditions of Europe. Unlike our Halloween, Dia de los Muertos takes place over 2 days of planning and celebration. On November the 1st, day 1, families would clean the graves of their loved ones, ready for their arrival on day 2. The graves would become a place where families would gather in order to give their ofrendas, or offerings that we would say. They would offer food, tequila and flowers to their returning ancestors, and bands would play music to welcome them home. One of the most striking features of this celebration are the calaveras, or skulls, which are painted with a face in order to laugh at death itself. They would be presented in the form of homemade candies, decorations and striking face paints which the relatives would wear as they make their offerings. The celebration is not about mourning the dead, but celebrating their ancestors, and is marked by festivals all across Mexico where people gather to feast, dance and join in honouring their loved ones in the afterlife. Halloween, of course, has its origins in Celtic traditions of honouring the dead and the end of summer, with Christianised elements such as souling morphing into the modern traditions of today, like trick-or-treating. Cultures across the world, however, all have their own way of celebrating all things spooky. So now that we've flown across the world and we've seen how people everywhere celebrate the dead, it is time for us to say goodbye. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell. And if I don't see you before, I'll see you in the afterlife. Bye bye.